guys, welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to continue working on the 66, and we've done a little research this week between last episode and this episode to try to find out kind of exactly what were some of the original things on the 66 that have been messed with and changed under the engine bay. And that's one of the things that's kind of different about doing a restoration instead of a rebuild, is that you know, the things have been changed so much over. If the car is 60 years old, you might have had 5 or 6 owners over those years, and each one of them's added or taken away from the car. And so it's interesting to go back and do research and look and see what exactly did this thing have in 1966. And that's what I'm trying to do on this car, is make it look like it was in 1966. There were several things in this engine bay that were not originally black. Okay, they were not, I'm talking about not color, but not just painted black. There's a coating that they use called phosphate and oil coating. They use a chemical called manganese phosphate to coat metal without paint. And it's kind of like what they use on gun barrels to make it the dark black color. There's a few things on this engine bay that used that process. One was the hood hinges, which we already talked about. The next, which I'm so glad I didn't start painting these already, it's the top of these shock towers. Those were that. This hood latch right here was that same thing, not this brace, but the actual latch. You can see right there where that paint is peeled off, and underneath there is that phosphate finish. So this right here is going to have to be taken off and sandblasted. I'm still researching it, but I might, if I find more stuff, then I'll do it. But I'm going to actually attempt to do the manganese phosphate coating as soon as I get all the stuff in that I need to actually do the process. And also I found out that this right here, which they call an export brace, which you saw me take off on the last episode, that goes from the shock towers up to the firewall, that is not the original correct one. There was a tab welded on right here. You can see where somebody sometime ground off spot welds, ground off this tab, and it went about right here and it stopped. And there was 2 bolt holes that went from it and then over to the firewall. And you can see that someone has widened out the holes on the firewall to be able to use that export brace. So now what I have to do is try to find somebody that has one of these original tabs that welded onto the shock towers, on one on each side. So that could be difficult. I did find the other part that goes straight across. There's some of those on eBay, so I can get those for sure, but I have not been able to find the tabs yet. So while I'm waiting for the sandblasting film to come in so that I can blast the rest of those parts so I can see what I'm doing, I guess I need to go ahead and start hand sanding all the engine bay area. I'm just going to try to, it just is like overwhelming to think, oh, we got to sand in there by hand. So I'm just going to try to take one section at a time. Like I'll start with this front piece here, and I'm just going to 400 sand it just so it gets a good grip on the paint that I paint on there. And then I'll probably do this little section here, and then each night I'll try to add another section to it till I'm done. I showed you before how you just absolutely cannot sandblast when your film on the inside of the blasting cabinet gets blasted. So like here's my hand, but you can imagine when the piece that you're working on is down there on the bottom, I mean, you can't see it at all, so you can't see what you're missing. The paint's still on there and the rust's still on there when you pull it back out. So I'm going to remove this old piece You can see there it is, and you cannot see through it at all. You're supposed to be able to see through it. So here's the new stuff that you can see through. That's what you're supposed to be able to see when you're blasting. There's that hood latch I've been working on. So let's get the new film put on there and get to blasting. In the blasting cabinet, we just have a few little things that we've got to finish. So we've got this coil holder right here, and the back side of the hood hinge still needs to be done. These are complete. We've got some more stuff over there we've already done. So that shouldn't take long to finish the blasting. And then we haven't done anything to the frame yet down there. So all that needs to be sanded and paint prepped. Most of the rest of this has been sanded to 320. We still got some work to do over in that corner. That's a very hard, tedious area. It's hard to get to because of leaks over the years from the master cylinder. As you know, I'm sure brake fluid eats anything in its path. So there's no like rust, but it's just that bubbled up paint everywhere and all that. So it's hard to get off. Hopefully, once we get all that sanded and everything finished there, we'll roll the car outside and wash everything down, and then wax and grease remover on everything, get ready to actually paint. Well, I finally have everything sandblasted. There's the hinges and the springs, shock tower tops, hood latch, and this stuff from here this way is the stuff that all gets phosphated, which I got a notification that the chemical that I need came in today. So these two items over here are the braces that hold this hood latch, but they do not get phosphated. They just get painted black. But I thought since I can remove them easily, it'd be easier to sandblast them in the blasher than it would be to try to sand them on the car. So I went ahead and took them off. Well, guys, today is the day we attempt to do the phosphate process on all of our parts over here. There's our parts: hinges, shock towers tops, springs, hood latch, and the coil bracket. We've got a fish cooker hooked to a propane tank. We've got some various sized pots. We've got a temperature, we've got a candy thermometer, WD-40, distilled water, and our solution, which is manganese parkerizing phosphate concentrate. And this is made by Palmetto Enterprise, which has been doing this for many, many years. I think they said they've been in business for 45 years making this stuff. I hope that I got enough. We mixed 14 ounces of the solution with a gallon of distilled water. So the trick is getting the right size pot to be able to cover your item that you're phosphating. So, and you can't use just a steel pot. This is an enameled steel, and then that one's stainless steel. I really tried to find a stainless steel that was big enough to fit these hood hinges in, but I have not been able to find that. So I know if I put a gallon in my stainless steel pot, I can do all the small pieces and completely submerge them easily, but I'm not sure about this bigger one. So what I think I'm going to do is put the gallon in and get it heated up in the stainless steel pot. It's supposed to heat the water up to 190 to 200 degrees first. And then when it gets to that temperature, then you add the solution to it. And then put your part in. Part should start fizzing immediately where it's parkerizing it, and you let it sit in there until it quits fizzing, usually 8 to 10 minutes. Then the longer it sits in there, the darker it gets. Then we'll take the part out, put it back over here on some cardboard, and then we coat it with WD-40. And that's supposed to make the color set and keep it from rusting anymore. And then it says to wipe it down and do it 2 more times after that with WD-40. But we'll see what happens here. I'm going to set up a time lapse, get the fire going here, and start heating the distilled water up to 200 degrees. I'm stuck at 140 and it's still heating up here, but the trick is to get this stuff to heat to 200 degrees, and as we all know, boiling is 212. So you absolutely do not want it to boil. So you got to keep it just below boiling, and that's hard to do on a fish cooker. When it gets to 190, I'm going to go ahead and add the solution in there, and then I'll try to get to 200 and then start putting the parts in. Okay, I'm setting at 190. I turn the flame down just a little bit. Hopefully I can keep it maintained close to that. Got my safety gloves on and safety glasses on. When you're dealing with chemicals, you always better do that.
And always remember, kids, when you're coating engine bay parts at home over an open flame using toxic chemicals, always be like Professor Mark and wear your safety gear, because a safe experiment is a fun experiment.
It's not marked as far as how many ounces is in this little bottle, so I'm going to measure it. It's supposed to be 14 ounces in a gallon to mix, so here's 8 ounces. And also this stuff can be reused, so once I'm finished, after I let it cool down, I can pour it through a paint strainer and put it back in these clean distilled water jugs, and it can be used again. Okay, I'm at 200 degrees. It should start fizzing. You see it reacting in there? Go ahead and put the other one in. And this coil bracket. And I'm going to set a timer for 8 minutes. Also, as this stuff sits, we're supposed to move it around a little bit so it doesn't like just sit on the one spot on the pan and not get covered exactly all the way. As you can tell, it's already turning grayer. Okay, so my time is up, my 8 minutes, and it looks like there's not any more fizzing going on. So I'm going to take those out and set them over there on that cardboard, and then we will spray them down with WD. These are over here. Stick these in real quick. Look at the difference in the color here. Now I'm going to spray these down. Okay, so there's a piece to the left which doesn't even get phosphated, but it's just sandblasted metal. And look at how pretty that phosphated finish is. I mean, it does look like a gun barrel. So that's the way it looked back in 1966 when they coated the metal. Nice, even, dark gray, charcoal color. That's the kind of things that really make a restoration stand out when you're trying to do things the way it was back then. It just adds a lot to it, I think. Of course, I might be the only one that knows that when it's done, but I'll agitate these and set the timer. A minute has passed, I think. Yeah, I had to break out the bigger pot. And it's definitely a hard one to do because you have to keep twisting it, turning it, try to get it even coated all the way around. Person really should buy 2 gallon, enough to make 2 gallons of this if you're going to do hood hinges. I thought I could find the right size pan, but I just couldn't. So I've still got this. That's back down to about 195 now. So I'm going to crank it up a little bit. Phosphate finish. There's kind of wet still from the WD-40, and they got little fibers from towel I was wiping them off with on them. But the color, I think, is really nice. I like it. I'm satisfied with it, and didn't have anything to put them on, so I had to run upstairs and get my wife's bath towel. I didn't want to put them on mine. That stuff's sticky. So anyway, I think that looks good, and I thought it was pretty easy, especially not having the right size pan to heat it with. If I had one thing to recommend something to somebody, that would be it. Make sure you've got the right size pan before you start, and then order enough phosphate or manganese phosphate to fill up a pan to completely cover it, because it is a pain trying to flip it over, and it still worked all right, but it was a pain. Well, that's all the time we've got for today, guys, for this week. I hope you enjoyed the episode. It was educational for me. I hope you learned something, that you can do a process like manganese phosphating at home, and it's pretty easy and you get good results. I'm happy with the way things turned out, but I did remember one thing, is that all the fasteners, all the bolts that go in all these holes, every hole in here, whatever bolt was in it originally, was supposed to be a phosphate finished bolt. So I've got fender bolts, and there are the red ones that hold the fenders on. All these have to be sandblasted and phosphated, but that shouldn't take long, and I'll just do that off camera since you've already seen the process. So I'll see you on the next episode, and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.
Do you have any questions about this week's video? Leave a comment down below. And always remember, don't retire it if you can rebuild it. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in and watching this week's episode of Rebuild It. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any awesome content. Have a good one.